Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the TCT podcast here on YouTube. My name is Gavin Campbell. Alongside me, as always, my two good friends, Tyson Snyder and Cale Fleming. Today on the rundown, we have some Central Illinois High School football Week 3, as well as the University of Illinois' matchup with Western Illinois Saturday, I believe at 11, or is it 11 o'clock in the morning? And then we're going to finish up with Thursday Night Football that just happened last night between the Atlanta Falcons and Philadelphia Eagles. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Tyson. Go ahead, buddy.
All right. It is time for some high school football. Our first game of the week is going to be Centennial against Richwoods, Peoria Richwoods. Now, Centennial, I've picked the last 2 weeks, both games they've played at home, and I've been let down both of the last 2 weeks. Not just let down by a little bit, but let down by a lot. Now, that being said, this isn't the Richwoods team of the past. Peoria Richwoods is 1-1 on the season. They have lost to Normal Community 43-7, so they got absolutely smoked, which sounds all right because Normal Community runs a real tight ship. I'm sure Gavin can tell you about that. But they beat Manual 21-19, so not a very good win against not a very good team. That being said, because Centennial's let me down the last 2 weeks, I cannot pick them again. I have to go with Richwoods, even though in almost any other situation I wouldn't pick them. But what do you guys think?
Well, I'm on the opposite end of that. I think that their 2 losses that they've taken so far have been pretty embarrassing, to tell you the truth. That loss against Central on their supposedly home turf, that was an embarrassment. I don't think that they're very happy about that. Losing the first game of the season to Peoria, I think we all predicted that correctly, if my memory suits me. Peoria is just a really, really good football team. So I'm thinking with those 2 combined losses, they'll go ahead and turn it around. Peoria Richwoods, to me, yes, their program's better than it has been in the past, but like you said, they got to win a very questionable win against a very bad team, and then they got destroyed by one of the best programs in the state. So I have to go with Centennial on this one.
I'm taking Centennial too.
All right. That's fair, okay.
Nothing else to
like
add
I
there,
said, in almost any other situation, I would pick Centennial because this Richwoods team is not very good. But just because I've been let down, I can't go with them again.
That's understandable.
Now, hopefully I'm wrong this week, and then I can go back to them eventually. But for this week, yeah, I'm sticking with it. Our next game up is going to be Champaign Central against Peoria Notre Dame. Another Notre Dame team that hasn't been the same. Usually they run a really good game. They've got a good coach. Usually they can pull together some pretty big wins. But their first 2 games of the season have been against Normal West and Peoria. 2 very good teams again. They lost to Normal West 44-13. They lost to Peoria 70-33. So they got absolutely smoked. In both of those games, we can see their defense has a lot of holes. But that's holes against really good teams. Now, Central, we saw play Peoria week 1, and they only scored 6 points. Right? Something like 6 points?
I think they had 7 against Metamora. That's what it was. 33-7 right. They lost week 1. Yeah.
Oh, Centennial played Peoria.
Peoria, yeah.
Yes, okay.
They only put up 6.
They only put up, yeah.
6. Peoria destroyed them, yeah.
So, that being said, this Notre Dame team put up 33 on Peoria. They let up 70. I don't think Central's offense is going to show up 2 weeks in a row like they did against Centennial and put up 48. So I am going to take Peoria Notre Dame in this one over Champaign Central.
I'm going to go ahead and take the opposite again here. I'm going to take Champaign Central. More or less the fact that Peoria Notre Dame, as long as I've known them, has never really been that great of a program. I don't know how I can. I mean, Central did lose to a very good Metamora team, and then they go out and beat their crosstown rivals. I mean, they smacked them in the mouth by 20-something points. So, yeah, they're away. Probably give the edge to Notre Dame, but I'm still going to stick with the Maroons.
I work with a kid outside of here that goes to Champaign Central, and he feels like that their program is not good, is what he says, in lighter terms. So going off of his predictions and what he's telling me about the team, I think I'm going to go ahead and take Peoria Notre Dame as well, just for the fact that it's kind of hard to go against a Notre Dame school. Because if you look at Quincy Notre Dame, they're solid. They're always tough. I just feel like Peoria Notre Dame is going to squeak out a win this week against Central.
All right. So 2-on-1 again in that one. We haven't had a consensus pick so far. Our next game up is Danville versus Normal West. Danville, as we know, got smoked week 1. They didn't get smoked, but they lost to a team that they probably shouldn't have lost to. Week 2, we saw them beat a team that they should have smoked, 21-20 in Urbana.
Which they were down in that game late.
Yes.
So it took a comeback.
Major comeback win. Big props to them. But it's looking scary so far for Danville. Normal West is their opponent this week. Normal West beat Peoria Notre Dame 44-13, like I mentioned, and they lost to Normal Community. All those Normal teams are very, very good. So losing to Normal Community, they did lose 49-27.
But they were able to put up 27 points on that Ironman defense.
Yes. Community's definitely the best Normal team over there. So, I mean, I'm going with Normal West in this one just because Danville's had it too close for me to be comfortable picking them again. They let me down week 1, barely squeaked it out in week 2, so I'm just a little nervous picking Danville right now, so I'm going with Normal West in this one.
I'm also taking the Wildcats. This is a team that I've played many times back when I was in high school, and they, like Tyson said, they always seem to put together a really good program. And like I said, when you can put up 4 touchdowns on a Normal Community Ironman, that is no easy task. That's only something that we were able to do once while I was there on any level, freshman, JV, or varsity. So, I'm definitely going with Normal West in this one. Like you said, Danville's been struggling the past couple weeks. So unless they turn it around, there's no reason Normal West shouldn't walk away with a win.
I'm going to go ahead and take Normal West, too, just for the fact that, I mean, Normal can't really argue. Mm-hmm. They've all got good teams over there, so go Normal.
Here we go. So we got our first consensus pick of the week. Our next game up is Mahomet Seymour versus Mascoutah. Mahomet Seymour is 1-1, as well as Mascoutah is also 1-1. Mahomet lost to Washington big. Washington has an outstanding town. If you look at the wrestling rankings for 1A or whatever Washington is, 2A.
2A, I think.
They will have 9 of 13 weight classes with number 1 rankings from Washington. They're that good. Their football program is no different. So losing that big to a Washington school is not awful. Washington is phenomenal. Charleston, they ended up beating 49-20. Mascoutah is also 1-1 on the season. They lost to Columbia 36-35, real close. And they beat Mattoon 42-7.
Mattoon hasn't been good since they've left the Big 12 a few years ago. So I don't think that that's any surprise. I think the first game was a lot closer than people anticipated.
Right.
They did a really good job staying in that game. But I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I'm going to go ahead and take my pick. I'm going to take Mahomet in this one just because I've played them before in the past, and I know that they run a decent program year in and year out. So let's go Bulldogs.
I was also going to pick Mahomet in this one. I in almost every other situation, again, I would pick Mascoutah. It looks like they've had a better run so far this year. But like I said, that loss to Washington for Mahomet isn't really saying much. Washington is so good. I've also got my girl's cousin plays for Mahomet, so let's go Bulldogs.
I'm going with Bulldogs as well, just for the fact that Mascoutah, I don't know much about them. So therefore, go Bulldogs.
All right, our next game of the week is going to be Monticello against St. Thomas More. We all know the whoopings that Monticello's been handing out against STM, who got whooped week 1. They ended up squeaking out a win week 2. So
they got spanked by St. Joe week 1.
Yes.
Yeah, the scoreboard did not replicate the beating they took in that game.
No.
Because St. Joe at times found it hard to score the football, but yeah, STM did not stand a chance week 1.
Yeah, they ended up squeaking out a win week 2 against Olympia Delavan, 38-32, which Olympia is not a very good team, as they're 0-2 so far. They got smoked week 1. I can't remember who they played. Maybe PC? No, they played Monticello week 1 and got destroyed. So like I said, we know the whoopings that Monticello's been handing out. I think that's enough to say I'm going Monticello. Go Sages.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Sages in this one. Nothing else to add. Just a phenomenal program they have going on there, and they'll go ahead and get this win. Can't go wrong picking Monticello.
Oh, no.
So, Monticello it is.
All right, our next game of the week, me and Cale, our hometown, the PBL Panthers versus the Iroquois West Raiders. Now, Iroquois West has traditionally been a team that we just absolutely whoop up on. Iroquois West is 0-2 on the season, losing last week to Hoopston area, Schlarman, Armstrong, a team that's won 4 games over the last 3 years.
The Corn Jerkers.
Yeah. So go Corn Jerkers, but
Yeah.
I'm taking PBL in this one. That one seems like an obvious gimme.
Let me just say real quick, what a mascot, the Corn Jerkers. I don't know who came up with that one, but that's fantastic. I'm also going to take PBL in this one. It's the first time I'm taking Paxton Buckley loaded to win a game,
Yes,
and
sir.
hopefully they don't let me down.
PBL over Iroquois West, there isn't typically much contest. It was that way when we were in high school, still is that way. I think it was like that even a little before we were in high school. So I'm going to take PBL as well.
Okay, so we've got another consensus pick. Everybody picking PBL. Let's hope for the best there. I'm pretty confident in that one. But our next game is going to be Rantoul against Olympia. Like I said, Olympia not very good so far this year. 0-2. They lost week 2 to St. Thomas More. Like I mentioned, they lost week 1 against Monticello. Got smoked in the first one. But Rantoul, another team, never very good. They put up some points week 1 against PC, 52-28, I think was the score of that one.
No easy task to put up 4 touchdowns
No.
on that team either. Prairie Central's looked very good.
And then they lost last week 21-6 against St. Joe, who we all know St. Joe is a very good team. So this is really a battle of the bads. Rantoul has showed out a little bit better so far this year, I think, personally. But that being said, I can't pick Rantoul. I know them all too well. I've seen them over the last 10 years win maybe 10 games. I'm going with Olympia in this one just because I know Gavin's going the other way.
Fly, Eagles, fly. I'm taking Rantoul all the way.
I'm taking the Eagles as well. They're going to be 1-2 after this week and give me a few more points in this contest.
He's so confident with this pick. I love it.
All right, next game, St. Joe versus Bloomington Central Catholic. We all went BCC last week. All let
wrong.
down sorely against Prairie Central, 40-7, I think was the score.
I think that was a wake-up call. I mean, I respect PC and what they're doing
Yes.
this year. They have a very, very solid football team.
That's exactly what it was for me. Normally I wouldn't pick PC, but so far they're looking very solid. Gives me something a little bit to look out for. Not so much that was bad on BCC, but it was really good on Prairie Central. But BCC 0-2, St. Joe 2-0. I think St. Joe rides the wave, and I think they're going to bring home a W at BCC this week.
Yep, nothing else to add. St. Joe's always had a great program. We've said it for the past few weeks now. I'm going to take them to win this game over BCC.
After that showing they had against Prairie Central, St. Joe's 3 times the team Prairie Central is. So there's BCC. There ain't no way they can beat St. Joe.
That's true. St. Joseph Hog the whole way, too.
All right, our next game. This one, personally, for me, is the most interesting game of the week. Tuscola against Central A&M. Now, none of us know a whole lot about Central.
Assumption and Moweaqua is what
Yes.
A&M stands for.
Assumption and Moweaqua. Okay, there we go. Both teams are 2-0. We know Tuscola has won 57-0, 34-0. They have not been scored on this year. Central is also 2-0. They have put up really good fights in both games. They beat Westville 33-0, which Westville has been spotty in the past. Last year they weren't very good. The year before they were amazing. I think they went 8-1 for the season. And then they beat Nokomis 49-7. So another game that they absolutely put a stomping on somebody. Now I don't know a whole lot about Nokomis either. But this to me is a very, very interesting game. Central A&M, not necessarily a team I would even consider, especially considering they're going up against Tuscola. But Tuscola's defense has not been scored on so far this year. They have played a mediocre team and a
Arcola.
slightly above average
Yeah.
mediocre team in Arcola and Villa Grove. But I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah.
I really want to pick Central to take down Tuscola, but I just can't. Tuscola's too good. I got to go with Tuscola again.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it was this hard of a decision for you. I see the Warriors coming off a state championship appearance, and I think that if they're looking to get back there and actually take this thing home, this is a game they got to win, and I don't think that there's any reason for me to believe that they will lose this game. So I'm taking Tuscola.
If you look in the News-Gazette, A&M has put together some phenomenal football teams in the past decade. So, out of all the games that Tuscola plays all year, A&M, Central A&M, is one of their toughest components, if not the toughest opponent they play. But like you said, Tyson, the Tuscola's defense hasn't been scored on yet this season. But A&M will probably be the first one to do that because they're just as good, if not better, than Tuscola. But I'm still going to have to go with, like Gavin said, riding off the state champ thing or state playoffs appearance. I'm going to have to go with Tuscola.
I think that's a good pick. Once again, I do think Tuscola will pull this win out, but Central, it's a tough game. Central is one of those teams like Tuscola makes the playoffs every year, makes a run every year. It just so happens that Tuscola is the one that makes it to the playoffs or the championship every year.
Yeah, I'm not trying to disrespect A&M whatsoever. I do think they'll put up points in this game.
Good.
They will put up points in this game. Tuscola is not going to score 57 like they did against Heritage Villa Grove.
No, absolutely not.
But, I mean, if this is going to be like a 28-21 kind of game, I mean, that's probably what you're looking at.
It probably won't even be that high. Reading about these two defenses a little bit that I did last night, I don't even think.
I'm giving it to Tuscola 27-14.
Yes, I'm going to say 14-7 Tuscola.
Really? You think it's going to be that close, that much of a defensive showing?
Their defenses, these two defenses are unstoppable.
Okay.
They could be. But, I mean, like we've been saying, their offenses, like they've gone up against mediocre teams, but 80-plus points, both these teams during the season, not an easy thing to do.
Nope. Alrighty. Moving on, our last game of the week is going to be Urbana against Normal Community. Urbana, we know, did not show up week 1, 36-6 against Rich East. Put on a really good showing against Danville last week.
Should have won that game.
Should have won that game. Led up a big comeback at the end. Normal Community is 2-0. They have destroyed Richwoods 43-7. They beat Normal West 49-27. Now that defense doesn't look very good with that 27. Like you said earlier, Gavin, putting up 27 on that Ironman defense is no joke.
But Normal West has a very good program. Like
Yes.
we said, like we've been talking about, the Normal teams are very good. I mean, even just playing in the Big 12, when you have to play Normal Community and Bloomington every single year.
Yep.
So you have two games that you have to show out every single time you step out on that field. The issue is that Normal Community, they don't just have 100 guys on this roster. They have 100 guys that can play football on this roster. So when you're going up against that and you're Urbana, you're Central, you're Danville, and you only have like 40, 50 players, and half of them aren't even, starters, you have a problem. Everyone on that community team can start. So they just keep swapping in guys, and by the fourth quarter, they've got their fifth string in, and you're winded. I don't care how talented you are. When Urbana won the Big 12 in 2012, when we went to the second round of the playoffs for the first time since 2001, this was the team we lost to, when we lost too big, 36-6. This team is no joke. We had all the talent in the world, but we could not stop the Ironmen. So there's no reason for me to pick Urbana in this one. Normal Community is probably the best team in this conference, but
we're hearing it from an alumni or an Urbana alumnus and an ex-Urbana football player. And I'm going right with them. This Normal Community team is nothing to be messed with here.
So you guys are over here talking about how Urbana ain't going to win this game.
Cale, please don't do this to yourself. Please don't do this to yourself.
Don't do it to yourself again.
The last 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, I picked Urbana. They shouldn't have lost to Danville. But you know what? Urbana is going to come out 1-2 on Saturday morning. They're beating Normal Community.
It is in Normal.
Let's go Tigers.
Okay.
They're going to take it on the road.
I'll make sure that I wear Black Monday for Cale's funeral after this weekend.
Let's go Tigers.
Yeah, we'll see.
You realize you would only have missed like 3 games total if you would just not pick Urbana?
Yeah.
He wants to make it interesting.
Let's go Tigers.
All right.
Jeez,
Well,
all right.
that wraps it up for high school football for the week.
Yeah, we've got our game set in stone, and Cale with the shocker pick of Urbana over Normal Community.
That's kind of why I put that one last. If you didn't know when I made these notes, I want to talk about that one last.
I was wondering why. I tell you what, let's go ahead and move on, Cale. If you want to go ahead and talk some intelligent football, let's go ahead and hand it over to you, and let's talk the Illinois Fighting Illini against the Western Illinois, the Bulldogs, Leathernecks. Okay, there we go. What a name. Go ahead and let's hear about this weekend.
I want to go ahead and say one thing: that the only school that's not a part of the Army or the Navy that's named after a Armed Forces branch would be the Marines, I think, or the Leathernecks.
Yeah,
but that's kind of cool. But real quick. Last week, we talked about it on Monday. Illinois was really struggled against Kent State in the first half. If they can come out and play football like they did in the second half, the whole game against Western, they'll be fine. But I want to talk about something real quick. Illinois versus in-state schools all time. They're 4-0 versus Northern, 4-0 versus Southern, 3-0 versus Illinois State, 2-0 versus Eastern, and 2-0 versus Western, who we have this weekend, obviously. With a combined score, Illinois outscoring all 4 in-school or all 5 in-state opponents, 597 to 224. So, I mean, they haven't even let up 300 points yet in program history against these in-state schools. They haven't lost a game yet to these in-state schools. But Western, or coming out of the MAC, they're tough. I mean, they're an FBS school.
They're a Valley team.
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, they're a Valley team. I get them. Yeah, my bad. They're a Valley team. Pardon me. Thank you for correcting me on
That's
that.
all right.
But no, they put up some, or they gave Illinois State when they went to the championship game a couple of years ago against North Dakota State. They gave them a run for their money. So the fact that Western can do that with this talent of guys that's not Power 5 obviously, but some of them could be Power 5. They just got looked over. Don't hold Western out of your mind. They're going to be there. They're going to be a thorn in your side, obviously. Do I think Illinois can win? Obviously. We have better talent. We're a Power 5 school, but at the same time, Western has just as good as talent as we do. So if we can't play football like we did the entire game, like we did the second half against Kent State, and come out with the mentality that we're going to win, then Western's going to give us a little bit of a problem. So I don't know. It's a tough game. I don't really want to say this is going to define our season. I feel like the next game, week 3, when we got to play USF, that's going to be our definition of the season right there. So I'm going to go ahead and say we win against Western. I'm probably making it a bigger deal than what it should be. We should just be able to walk in or come home. We're at home. We're at Memorial Field, so we should be able to come home and just trounce them is what we should do. But can we do it? I don't know. After that showing against Kent State, it's going to be a little tough.
I look at the week 1 matchup against Kent State in one of 2 ways. One, it was an embarrassment in the first half. Second, that comeback win, it does wonders for you emotionally. And I think it'll uplift this team. I think it was an eye-opening moment that, hey, if we don't get our act together, this season's going to be another one to forget in Fighting Illini history. So I think with that said, we should show up against Western. Obviously we have the absence of Mike Dudek out for the season with that ACL injury. That's a big blow for Illinois. But AJ Bush in that second half looked phenomenal. Corbin in that second half looked phenomenal. Epstein looked, him too. Even Smalling had a few catches there, a few drops, but when he did catch it, he looked great. The biggest question I have is can the secondary not give up 20-plus points? Like, can we hold anyone under 24 points? I mean, when I see that, that'll be the day that I actually get behind this team, because I know the offense is there. We saw him put up 28 points in the second half, 21 points in the third quarter. Excuse me. So no reason to believe that we should lose this game, but there was no reason to believe we should have lost week 1. So like you said, I'm not going to overlook Western. Do I think Illinois will still come out on top? Absolutely. We'll have to see if they bring their A game this time around tomorrow morning.
Western was 9-3 in the regular season last year. 9-4 overall. They lost in the first round of the FCS playoffs. They lost to Weber State. Weber State lost to James Madison, who was the number 1 seed in the playoff bracket last year. James Madison did not win. They lost to North Dakota State. In case you were wondering, North Dakota State won another one, which isn't a big surprise. So I don't think Western is a team that we can underestimate. I'm still picking the Illini in this one. I really, really hope we can beat an FCS team, especially an in-state rival like this. But Western is not a team that we can overlook. Western so far in the year is 0-1. They lost their first week, which is looking good. Maybe they'll come down a little low. But Western last season beat teams like Northern Illinois, who we know is a giant killer. Every year they beat someone ranked just because.
Well, the past few years they've had a good program, a really good program up there. They've produced some NFL players. So
yeah, but this is not a team we can overlook. Western is not something to just be played around with. This is another game has to be taken seriously. They've got some serious talent on their team. I think it's going to be another close one. I wish I didn't have to say that. I wish it wasn't going to be a close one like it was against Kent State. But I think this is going to be another close one, win by a touchdown or two. But I'm picking the Illini in this one. They should win. Like Cale said, undefeated all time versus in-state rivals. So hopefully it's not as close as I think it's going to be. But watch out for Western. They're going to come out and try and slap the big dog in the mouth.
Absolutely. So hopefully after this weekend, Illinois will be 2-0 for the first time in 3 years.
Last year.
Oh, they were 2-0
And
last
the year before.
No.
They started the last 2 years 2-0.
And then they lose out.
And then lose out.
We haven't been 3-0 since what?
Before Levy.
Would have
Long
been
before.
Shieldhouse was the quarterback.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, so about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that pretty much tells you the story of this program so far. Hopefully, Levy's on track to turning that around. Let's go ahead.
Next year.
For sure, next year. Let's.
Hang on a second.
No, sure.
Next week, obviously, that's going to be the gut check. If we can beat USF, who's not near as good as they used to be, or they're not near as good as they were last season. So if we can beat USF, then that's going to define the season right there, because that's our first competition. But obviously we're going to talk more on it next week. But that's just the thing that I'm looking out for. That's what I'm most nervous about.
Yeah, the one thing that I would say is that it's technically on neutral turf, playing at Soldier Field in Chicago. That's still a couple, maybe 2.5 hour drive for Illinois.
A lot of Illini fans up there too.
Yep.
Yeah, and USF obviously has to come all the way from Florida.
It is neutral, but it's a lot longer trip for USF than it is for us.
Right. I'm just saying it could be, and I hate to blame anyone else besides the players, but new environment.
Right.
Obviously not for Lovie Smith. He spent 10 years of his coaching career there, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
It's a good welcome home for Lovie too.
Absolutely. I would love to catch that game up there. Tell you what, let's go ahead and let's before we finish up with the MLB, we need to touch on Thursday night football. Last night we had the Atlanta Falcons at the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly came out on top of that game, 18-12. Tyson, let me go ahead and get your thoughts on this. I know that you're not the biggest Eagles fan here, but there's no doubt that defense is still as talented as it was last year. Nick Foles looks like he was struggling a little bit last night. Zach Ertz dropped 3 passes last night for the first time since like November of last year. So just go ahead and give me your quick thoughts on the game.
Well, the whole Eagles team was struggling. If you look at the final score, it looks like the Eagles defense put on an absolute clinic, which isn't very true. Beside their cornerbacks, outstanding. Especially that rookie that was guarding Julio for most of the game, as Cale was talking about last night. He shut him down on the left side. Only when Julio went to the right did he have some success. Now that being said, they completely almost shut down this Atlanta offense. I was really hoping Atlanta would pull out a win here. Julio went for 160 yards, 150 yards.
I think 163.
Yeah, 163 yards. Atlanta was moving the ball. They could just not score. So even though the Philly defense, it looks like they put on a clinic, Atlanta moved the ball very well, but when it came time for it to actually matter, the Eagles defense did. Now the Eagles offense, once again, subpar. Nick Foles has struggled. He did not play well early in the game. He didn't even play well late in the game.
He was only 19 for 34 with 117 yards and an interception.
Yeah, so there you go. There's your numbers. 19 for 34. That's just over 50%. 117 yards. That's a good quarter.
Well, let me say one thing about Nick Foles is that he was missing Alshon Jeffrey. That's his number one option, and that's a big number one option. I think when you're missing that, we saw him. He went to the Super Bowl he went to Jeffrey in the Super Bowl a few times in that game. So obviously, when you take that away, you're going to struggle because then you have to find your new number one.
Which he's got Nelson Aguilar. Very good receiver.
Yeah.
But not Alshon Jeffrey.
Absolutely not. No, believe me, I watched him many games when he was in Chicago. Still upset that he left, but you know what? I understand he's got a ring and I don't. So, I don't know.
Well, and he's got that big target in Ertz, too, but Ertz wasn't helping him out very much either.
Right, and Ertz kept dropping the ball.
First time he's dropped the pass since November of 2016.
And he
dropped several.
Keeps dropping them. So
2, 7, I don't even remember how many. It was a lot.
He dropped 3 in one quarter.
Yep.
So
well, and that's the thing is, we know Foles likes to go to him on third down, and every third down it seemed that Atlanta was on top of it. And it's like when we brought Chris in from our last show, he said their linebackers are quick enough to cover Ertz. We saw that in this game.
Yep.
They were all over him, and they tormented him for the entire game. So
Zach Ertz had 5 receptions for 48 yards in total.
Yeah,
he should have had 10
8, 9,
for,
10. Yeah,
for 120.
But Atlanta just kept coming. I do think that Philly was exposed last night, and that's not so much due to Atlanta because they're still a really good football team. It's just what they didn't do. Mm-hmm. And like you said, on the defensive side, they're still really, really good, but I don't think that we saw a Super Bowl contender last night. And there's no disrespect to Philly because, I mean, hey, when you win it, you can talk as much as you want to talk. But from what we saw, and I think that we can all agree,
neither one of these teams looked ready.
No, and thank you, preseason, for that.
Right. It's week 1. I understand there's going to be some issues. I think some of this goes into a lot of star players not playing during the preseason. So saying how bad Philly was, how unprepared they looked, how not ready they were, how much they didn't mesh, all the problems they had, Atlanta had more. That's why they lost this game. We saw consecutive passes, Matt Ryan underthrowing Julio Jones.
Or overthrowing.
Or getting picked because of a bad throw. I think a lot of that goes to Julio and Matt Ryan not being on the same page.
And that's Julio Jones not coming to camp, and that's also Matt Ryan not playing in the preseason.
Yep.
So, he played a little bit, but you know what I mean. He doesn't continual play.
It wasn't consistent. And they didn't play it all together.
Yeah.
So I think Julio thought he was running one route. Matt Ryan thought he was running another. That's why he was underthrowing. That's why he was getting picked. That's why he was just launching the ball because Julio stopped running because he thought he was a different route. So we very much saw this Atlanta offense not being on the same page of where they should have been, not working together. It was not a well-oiled machine. It was a bunch of cogs functioning independently instead of helping each other.
No, let's go ahead and let's transition to another game that we won't know the outcome of until next week because our Monday show is moved to Sunday. We'll have Urbana football defensive tackle on. Julius, he'll be joining us on Sunday. But we need to talk about Sunday Night Football. Our Chicago Bears, Cale, taking on the oldest rival in the book, the Green Bay Packers. The addition of Khalil Mack on that defense. It was already a top 10 defense last year. Leonard Floyd, Hakeem Hicks. We did lose Willie Young, but we've got Roquan Smith at linebacker, Prince Amukamara and Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos, Fuller. I mean, this defense is stout. Are they going to be able to slow down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rodgers don't have any help.
Oh, that's true. I mean, with something that Tyson actually touched on is that Rodgers' offensive line. What offensive line?
There's nothing there, and now that offensive line has to worry about Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
So I mean,
we were talking about this before the show. I mean, if they can't find a way to double and triple team Khalil every single play, Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in the dirt. And if that happens, we know that he's had collarbone issues in the past, and that would be really, really bad for Green Bay's season if Aaron got hurt again.
I don't like Green Bay, but I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I really don't want to see him hurt again.
I agree.
I really don't, because I like watching Aaron Rodgers play football. I just wish he played somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like Chicago.
See, I don't care for Aaron Rodgers very much. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. But I just don't really like him. Maybe it's because he plays for the Packers. Maybe it's because Des caught it.
That's why you don't like him.
But
yeah, there's a bias right there.
But I don't really want to see Aaron Rodgers get hurt again. The only player I would wish ill upon is probably OBJ. That we talked about that already.
Yeah, we've touched on that.
But I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers get hurt again. and if he doesn't get hurt, I think that automatically gives Green Bay a leg up.
Yeah,
I think Chicago's got a much better team than they've had the last couple of years, but Green Bay, as long as Aaron Rodgers is on the field, they've got a chance.
Playmaker.
You can take 5 people from the stands and have them throw to them, and they're going to score.
I think with the accumulation that Chicago has right now, of just potential. Not so much the talent yet, but the potential this team has. This is the most talented team we've had since 2012, 2013, when they went to the NFC Championship game against the Packers, oddly enough. So I mentioned it earlier that the Bears could go 9-7 at the beginning of the season without Khalil Mack.
Addition to Khalil Mack,
I think that solidifies my pick of 9-7, possibly even 10-6. I do think that this team could make the wild card, and you can call me biased and call me a homer, whatever you want, but this team is good enough to make a wild card in the NFC.
I want to go off of something you said real quick though. You said you're going to have to double or triple team Khalil Mack. When you do that, you still have Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Green Bay offensive line is going to have a lot of problems with this defense because you got Roquan Smith on one side, because you're obviously going to have to triple team Mack because he's proven himself. But Roquan Smith's proved himself in Georgia. Yet he hasn't played an NFL game yet. But I don't think that really matters to this kid. I think he's going to go out and he's got Mack next to him. So that's saying he's got Khalil Mack next to him.
Yeah.
He's going to end up playing just as well as Mack does. Could he be a defensive player of the year? Not this year. Could he be in the future? Absolutely. But that defense, I can't rave enough about this defense. They're just solid.
Oh, yeah. And people talk about Minnesota's defense, Jacksonville's defense. There's no reason the Bears can't be top 5 in defensive rating overall this season. I mean, Mack is that good.
Yeah.
Vegas had him rated at only giving your team a half game more per season. I think that's ridiculous. I think without him, there's no way the Raiders win 6 games last year if it wasn't for Khalil Mack. That team was a mess with injuries and all of the political stuff that went on inside that locker room, and the coaches not getting along with the players, and all these other stories that went in with Oakland. Now, with Mack in Chicago, it's like you touched on it. With Roquan Smith, there's no other person you'd want to learn from than a guy with this kind of motor, a former defensive player of the year, a guy that is just ferocious. I mean, the bull rush that he uses during the game is one of the nastiest ones I've ever seen. He takes 300-pound linemen off their feet every single time he rushes the quarterback. It's truly incredible. I think this is a guy that's good for at least 1, maybe even 1.5 games a season. He's this good. And when you add him to a defense that was already top 10, don't see why it doesn't make it top 5. He's that good of a player. He's that good.
I know we're kind of leaving Tyson out over here, but I want to go back to his comment. It's still Aaron Rodgers. It's still Green Bay. I don't know. It's going to be tough. With our defense, yes, we got a shot. But we've got a good shot at beating Green Bay, but it's still Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and real quick, let me say this: the Packers' defense isn't always the greatest.
No.
Although,
and I think this is the most subpar defense they've had in several years.
Our offense isn't that bad either.
That's what I'm saying. Is Trubisky is still, I believe, unproven. He threw 7 touchdowns and 7 picks in 12 games. I don't think that John Fox fully committed to him and gave him the keys to this offense.
No,
Matt Nagy is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
He said, "Kid, here's the keys. You go ahead and take it. Do whatever you want with it. I got
Crash
your
my
back."
Beamer, I swear to God.
Yeah. But they went out and surrounded him with receivers, tight ends. They've got Allen Robinson from the Jaguars. They got Taylor Gabriel from the Atlanta Falcons. They got Trey Burton from the championship Eagles. Not to mention that you have Kevin White coming back. If he can turn into anything, if that's your 4th option,
if he can play a game,
that's what I'm saying. If he can do anything and that's your 4th option, you're looking great. You're looking really good. Not to mention you got Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen out of the backfield. Tariq Cohen, great back out of the backfield at catching the football. Not only that, he's a great special teams guy. We saw him a couple plays last year on punt returns, kick returns. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
He's a little ball of fun, man. I love watching.
He looks like the next Darren Sproles to me.
Yeah.
And shout out to Darren Sproles, his last season. Looked really good last night. I was really impressed. He took a couple hits and bounced right back up, so he's still got it.
Was he 35, something like that?
He's up there. But no, honestly, I think this game Sunday night is going to be a lot closer than people think.
The last 10 seasons since 2008, Green Bay is 4-6 in Week 1 games, losing more than they won.
This is good news.
The last 3 years, they've gone 2-1. So
not good news if you're a Bears fan.
So yeah, 8-9. I think they won their first game. So they started 2-0. They lost a big stretch in between there, several to the Browns, in case anybody's wondering.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah. I think it was 3 games. 2 games they lost to the Browns, and 1 game they beat the Browns. I don't know why they played the Browns so many times Week 1, but that's what it is.
Talk about an easy schedule.
And then they won last year Week 1 against the Lions. They lost the year before that to the Vikings, and they beat the Bears the year before that. So their wins have been recent or far from now. So 4-6 in Week 1 games in the last 10 years. That's since Aaron Rodgers has been playing, more or less. We see that Aaron Rodgers doesn't necessarily always show up. I think 2 of those games they got shut out or only scored 3 points or something like that. So we can see that he's not always there. That record shows that the Bears actually have a chance in this. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, automatically gives your team a boost. Great quarterback. I honestly want to pick the Bears in this one, though. That's hard for me. I'm not a Bears fan. I like cheering against these guys just because I can. But I really want to see the Packers lose, and I think the Bears have a legitimate chance this season. I think this is the first season in several that they've had a chance to beat the Packers.
This is just a lesser of two evils for you. You don't like the Bears, but you really don't like Green Bay.
It's not that I don't like the Bears. I just like to cheer against them.
Yeah, but you really don't like Green Bay either. So
yeah, Des got it.
Go Bears.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to piggyback off that for my last point. I mentioned it earlier. This game's going to be a lot closer than people anticipate. It's hard to win in Green Bay, but Trubisky's a guy that's been fighting an uphill battle his entire career. In college, he wasn't a starter until his senior year because they didn't believe in him, and then he balled out for North Carolina.
And became its number 2 overall pick.
Exactly, and that's why the Bears traded up to get him. And then they draft him with a 2nd overall pick. They start Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon over Mitchell Trubisky for 4 games. Obviously went 0-4 in that time frame. They put Trubisky in, and then he throws 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It's okay for a rookie, right? In 12 games, you probably want to see a little more.
With a bad offense.
Right, but we ran the ball a lot. Okay?
He was only throwing the ball 18 times a game, maybe.
Yeah.
The average for quarterbacks is probably close to 30.
Yeah, not enough. So if he's able to build off of that, especially if a guy's able to throw, 18 touchdowns and 18 interceptions, that's still a solid season for your 2nd year. Am I expecting that from him? I'm probably expecting a little bit more with the amount of talent that's surrounding him.
I'm expecting more touchdowns than interceptions.
I am as well, but even if he can break even, I don't think that you can say anything bad about this guy. He's only 23 years old. I think we got to give him a chance, and I think that if Chicago can back this guy up, I don't see why there's any other reason that we first of all shouldn't win this. But I think we have a shot at getting into the playoffs. What?
My one question is the Bears' offensive line.
Yes.
They have surrounded talent around Trubisky, and we know they've got good running backs. Their defense is stout. My one question this week is going to be the Bears' offensive line. Can they withstand that Packers front? Can they protect Trubisky? Can they give him a chance to throw the ball and show us what he can do?
If Kyle Long can stay healthy.
Kyle Long's the man.
Yep.
So's his brother. Them two got to be the most iconic duo in the NFL.
Well, we'll have to see if they can.
Sorry.
That's okay. Leno Jr. also, he needs to step up.
Yes.
Left tackle or right tackle. Excuse me. He needs to step up because he's big enough, he's talented enough,
huge.
But sometimes he gets lazy, and laziness leads
to
injuries, and that's something that I cannot stand, especially being an offensive lineman in high school. I hate to see an offensive lineman be the reason for an injury to a quarterback or running back. It's terrible. But, yeah, go Bears. I'm taking them as well. Cale, I know he's taking them over the Packers. It's going to be a good game. Hopefully we can talk about that next Friday if we remember. But let's go ahead and wrap it up here real quick. We need to talk about the MLB because it's been a couple days. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Chicago, looking really good. 4.5 games up on Milwaukee, 5 games up on St. Louis. What do you guys think about the Cubs coming down the stretch?
I don't know. We're kind of hit a rough patch the last couple of days. Our pitching hasn't been near as solid as it has been the week before, or the month of August, I should say. The month of August, we had a really good month.
Cole Hamels threw another outstanding game, though. Another game that they lost, one of those rough patch games.
Yeah.
But he only let up 1 run, I think. If that, I don't even remember if they scored on him.
He only let up 1, which is about what he's been doing with Chicago. He's only been letting up 1 run.
His ERA is less than 1.
Yeah.
So if he's not giving up 0, he's giving up 1.
But, when it comes to the pitching, who we need to throw our hands in there with is Lester. Johnny's been our go-to guy since he got here. I mean, honestly, Lester's got pitched better. He's the leader of this team if you think about it, right? But right in front of Anthony Rizzo, John Lester is the man. But he's not pitching like he's the man right now. But that's the thing about Johnny Lester is that he's so humble that he will tell you that he's not the guy. But Tyson, as of right now, when we make a playoff push here in about 3 weeks, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that you put Hamels in there as your ace for the playoffs.
I agree. Lester's been our go-to guy the last 3 years now. He's been our ace in the playoffs. He's been our game one guy every series. The way that things are going right now, it's nothing against Lester. This is all props to Hamels. Since Hamels has come on the Cubs, he has been outstanding. Lights out. He's been a different player. He's been a Cy Young candidate in the 5 games he's pitched for the Cubs.
Yep.
Just based on that 5 games. He has looked like the MVP of the NL, of the entire league. Letting up 3 runs combined in 5 starts, 6 starts, whatever it's been. So it's nothing against Lester, but I think you have to give the nod to Cole Hamels for game 1 of the playoffs this year.
Lester's going to be our number 2 guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right in front of Hendricks.
Having
pitching well now.
Yes, Hendricks has definitely turned his season around, but having that duo at the start, Hamels, as we've seen over the last couple weeks, and Lester over the season that we've seen, minus a couple games here and there. But having those 2 at 1 and 2, I think that's a stout pitching lineup to go up against. That's hard to beat, especially like you said with Hendricks coming in third, and the offense that we've been able to put up the last few weeks. Maybe not the last couple games, but the last few weeks we've been scoring 7, 6, 10 runs.
My boy Bodie came in the clutch again last night with another big sacrifice fly in the 10th. So, man, he's having another stellar season. That's another guy that's got to be on this roster next year somehow. He's definitely going to make the playoff roster when they go back to the 25-man. But, no, I want to take a look around the league real quick, Tyson. Boston, they're 9.5 games up again. That's pretty much sealed. Although we don't have a healthy Aaron Judge. But with the addition and with McCutchen, that's going to replace Aaron Judge right there. Now, McCutchen's not going to come out here, Gavin. He's not going to hit 505-foot home runs.
No.
But he's going to come out here. He's going to give you base knocks in the leadoff spot. He's going to come out here and he's going to give you RBIs. He's going to make better plays than what Judge is going to make in the outfield. So with the addition of McCutchen, when Judge gets healthy, imagine this. You're going to have Andrew McCutchen in center, Judge in Judge in left, and Stanton in right. That's a nasty outfield.
It is, and I'm glad that you touched on McCutchen because I think the Yankees, after they saw what the Cubs did in acquiring Daniel Murphy from the Nats, they went out and got their own Daniel Murphy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to keep up with the rest of the talent in the entire MLB. The Yankees are a scary team, but do I think that they're better than the Red Sox? Do I think they're better than the Cubs? No.
Boston's won 97 games this year.
Yeah, absolutely not. They're definitely a playoff team. I mean, no, without a doubt. But do I think that are they going to get out of the divisional round? No. There's just too much talent. There's just way too much talent. Because they're going to have to go up against Boston if they do win that wild card game. So,
and if they get past Boston, they still got Houston.
Yeah, well, and that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned Houston because that's something I want to talk about. They're more than likely sealed. They're going to have to play the Cleveland Indians. And the Indians went out and acquired Josh Donaldson from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yep.
And he will be ready come playoff time.
Basically, the last good thing they had on the Blue Jays. One of the pieces we said they needed to keep if they wanted to start this rebuild.
Right.
We established they needed to get rid of PR, but they kept the guy that they should have got rid of.
Yeah, which
I don't understand that maneuver.
I don't either. They also let John Gibbons go. Mm-hmm. He will not be the manager next year for the Blue Jays. Which
Jay Happ's going.
Yeah, I'm very sad to see that. So hopefully this rebuild process with Guerrero Jr. in the system, hopefully we can bring him up and then hopefully get some ticket sales going. But the Cleveland Indians, do they have a shot against the Astros with the addition of Josh Donaldson?
They're in a snowball's chance in hell. They have a shot against the Astros. Ain't no way. The Indians, look at it this way. In their division, they have the Minnesota Twins. Then we're moving on down to the Detroit Tigers, who've won 57 games this year. Then you got the White Sox coming in with 56, and then rounding out this superb NAL Central is the Kansas City Royals, who are 46 and 93. They don't have to play anybody. They go out and they play the Astros. They play the Athletics. They play the Red Sox. They play the Tampa Bay Rays. They get spanked every series. So no, they can't beat the Astros. I don't even know why that's a question in some people's minds. I understand why you asked it, but I'm
just the moderator, man.
I understand why you asked it.
Giving him something to rant about.
But these people that say that Cleveland can beat Houston, no, they don't have the pitching staff that Houston does. They don't have the offensive production except for Lindor and now Donaldson, but that ain't even going to help them much because Houston's pitching staff with Verlander, Archie Bradley, they're just not going to beat them. They just can't do it.
2 years ago when they went to the World Series, maybe.
They had a World Series team when they went.
They had a World Series team when they went. And
they don't anymore.
They do not have that same team. I'm with Cale. There is not a chance that Cleveland pulls out maybe even 2 games against Houston. I bet they can win 1 in a series, 1 game. I'll give them that. But other than that, like Cale said, they don't play anybody in their division. 40 of their wins have been against these poor division rivals. Houston has played good teams all year. We see Oakland 84-57, Seattle 78-62, and they're spanking everybody. Houston also coming off a World Series win.
Same team.
Right. It's the same exact team. The only thing that's different is Boston has played a lot better this year than they did last year. That's the only reason Houston's not the number 1 team. But I don't think there's a chance that Cleveland pulls out more than 1 game in the series against the Astros.
Rest in peace to Josh Donaldson's career. Really appreciated you in Toronto. Let me ask one more question before we close it out here. Colorado Rockies, they have a 1.5 lead on the LA Dodgers with about 3 weeks to go in the season. What's the chances that they take home this division? And if they do, what's their chances of making it to the championship round?
I'm going to say this real quick, Tyson, and I'm going to let you close it out.
Mm-hmm.
The run differential right now for the LA Dodgers for the last 6 weeks is plus 129. They're up 129. The run differential for the Rockies is -8.
Yeah.
That's right there. That's what's going to tell you. They're scoring way more runs. The Dodgers are. They're outscoring everybody right now. They just had a little lapse there for the month of August. 1.5, Tyson, that ain't nothing. 1.5, you can get that back in 6 games. And we've got 3.
Get that back in 2 games.
You got, yeah. And, well, I haven't looked at the Dodgers schedule to see who they've got left. But, no, the 1.5, Colorado should be sweating about right now. They need to play like they have been all year. They need to play like they did in the month of August. But the Dodgers caught fire again. Here we go, Tyson. September, they're on fire. Imagine that. But they're 7-3 in their last 10. The Dodgers are, and the Rockies are 6-4. 6-4 ain't going to get you in the playoffs in the month of September, Gavin. You got to win, play 7-3 ball out of your 10 games. 7-3 will get you in the playoffs. I'm going to say exception to the Cubs for the fact that they're 83-47. There's no way Milwaukee comes back and gets this division with 4.5 games. I just think the Cubs have too big of a lead. Now we do have to play the Nationals all weekend, or the Braves all weekend, I believe. And then we have to play St. Louis at the end of the year, and St. Louis is actually winning our series right now. So we have some tough competition coming up. We can't knock St. Louis. But I just don't see how Colorado can hang on with this massively stacked roster that LA has now.
Earlier in the year, we had all picked LA to win this one outright. No problem. And then about 2 weeks ago, we all gave up on them. LA has turned things around mightily. I think the one thing you're wrong on, Colorado's got no reason to sweat. Colorado wasn't even supposed to be in the conversation right now. If you would have talked to us 2 months ago, LA would be up 10 games. Colorado shouldn't be in first. They shouldn't even be close. They shouldn't be a 1.5 up. They shouldn't have any kind of lead over LA. And even though Colorado's 6-4 in their last 10, they've won 5 straight. Now, I don't think Colorado's got any reason to sweat. As long as they can stay cool, keep their calm, keep playing like they've been playing over the last month and a half, I think they've got a really good chance to hold on to this lead and come out on top. The surprising thing to me is that if they do, LA doesn't really have a chance at the playoffs. It looked a month and a half ago like the NL West was going to have 3 teams in the playoffs. Couple weeks down the road, and the NL Central is going to have 3 teams in the playoffs. The Brewers have held on by the grace of God. I don't know how, but the Brewers have held on. St. Louis has made that charge, and now they're still holding. Chicago's up 6 games on any other team in the NL. They're only up 4.5 and 5 on Milwaukee and St. Louis, but the other divisions.
But that's where you guys said where you want them. That's where you wanted the Cubs to be. Was like 4 or 5 game.
There's no chance that any of these divisions can catch the Central. That being said, the Central's going to hold both wild card spots. The other divisions just can't catch up.
I'm gonna say this: I would rather play any NL Central team over the Dodgers any day of the week.
Yup.
Well, there's not just the history that they have with the Cubs, but like Tyson said, the Rockies, they're putting together a run here the past week, and they look good. With that said, we'll go ahead and keep updating whenever there's some news to talk about in the MLB, as well as everything else. But with that said, we really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. That's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, make sure you go and leave us a rating down below, give us a comment, maybe leave a like, and even consider subscribing with that big red button underneath the video in the description, and hit that bell icon to the right so you don't miss a beat. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media on Twitter at sports_twin. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view, you can't have too much trouble. So why can't we do it? Everybody's doing it. Let's ride the fireworks, stand back and enjoy it. Oh, oh.